Okay, now we're recording.
Holy shit, your hair is... Dude, it looks like something out of a cartoon. Your chop hop has turned into something it's totally evolved. I don't know, we need a new name. It's some sort of like rodeo hop or something. I don't know, but swear to God, it looks like you just rolled out of bed. Like
I rolled out an hour ago, but I haven't actually maintenanced it at all. But who should keep the hairstyle for 5 or 7 years anyways? You should always update it, shouldn't you?
I think this is a downgrade is my point.
What do you do with your hair when you wake up? Do you actually comb it?
No.
Exactly.
Put on a hat.
Oh, I don't wear hats really, but it'll sort itself out. That's the great thing. So we haven't really had any hair conversations for a long time, probably.
Oh God, we're going down this. This is going to be a horrible show.
Hey, look, all that I'm saying is the not washing your hair thing.
Yeah.
Part of the benefit of it is I just wake up and go. It looks silly now, but honestly, give it 20 minutes. It'll fall right into place. It knows what it wants to do. It just has, a little morning sickness every once in a while. And then it just settles right into the perfect wave.
It's as if your hair needs a cup of coffee too.
Exactly. We're on tea right now, and I think it might be tepid. I don't think it's hot enough.
Oh,
I know it's the worst, but I'll power through it. Hey Scott, big news since we last saw each other.
Yeah, what's up?
The election happened.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
They're still counting ballots, but it's been a week of pure pandemonium, I would say. Electile dysfunction.
We got an email from somebody in the United Kingdom, our friend Ben, and he wasn't sure what our political leanings were, but he was congratulating the USA in general. And I said, Ben, as always, thanks for listening. Here's our spit political platform, at least Scott's. This is Scott's spit political platform. We are anti the chop hop hairdo. We are pro no shampoo for David, not for me. We are pro hooting in a vowel into a wave. We are anti more than 24 people on the WCT. And I am pro Kai Lenny. Kai Lenny is better than Sierra Kerr.
Wow.
That's my political platform. That's as far as it goes.
So you will never get voted into office. Even if it is true that Kai Lenny is better than Sierra Kerr, you shouldn't take up that position. That's a divisive position that you didn't need to throw yourself into. And you're basically throwing shade on a 13-year-old girl. It doesn't look well for any candidate.
Well, look, you're the one, I think the last show you said Sierra Kerr is the most marketable surfer in the world.
Correct.
And I'm telling you that Kai Lenny is more marketable than Sierra Kerr.
Well, that's different.
And guess who agrees with me?
Ben in the UK.
Tag Heuer, the watch company, who's sponsoring Kai to the tunes of hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions.
Did you check in with them?
No.
Did they personally get back to you on that?
No, I'm just guessing.
How do you feel about expensive watches? Would you ever buy a Tag Heuer?
We've gone this route before, and
we've never talked about this.
I am watch free.
Oh, okay. Why
wear a watch when you have a phone? I'm not into jewelry, and it's all just it's so funny. It always comes down to me to like, what's going to make my surfing life simpler and easier to access? And that means no jewelry. Because you don't friggin' wear jewelry when you go surfing, for God's sakes. It's not a baseball game. And a watch is a pain in the ass. It gets in the way. Right? There you go. Coming in hard with a hot take.
Jewelry doesn't help out the baseball players either.
I know, but they wear
it. What about a Tide watch, though? That would, in theory, help you.
I know what the Tide's doing next week, right now, as we speak. Like, I don't need a friggin' Tide watch. Are you kidding me?
What about if you're going to a nice meal with your wife and she would like the most polished version of her husband to show off to her friends?
Sadly, the most polished version comes without a watch.
Fair enough. I can appreciate it. I'm not a big fan of jewelry either, so I'm down with it. Back to Kai Lenny, though, and Sierra Kerr. You're right. I did say Sierra is the most marketable surfer in the world.
By the way, is this show on you? Is this going to be on YouTube? Yeah. I hope.
Yeah.
Okay, because your hair is all time. I'm giving you a virtual high five right now. I'm down with this look. Like, I love the rolling out of bed look. It is.
Um,
It fits. Frankly, it fits the background of my Zoom call. It's a little bit scattered.
I'm telling you, within 20 minutes, you'll see it all laid down perfectly. You could
Let's
watch it just do its thing.
Maybe we should place a bet on this. Like, I don't know, like $5
On what? What's the bet?
that your hair is laid down perfectly in 20 minutes.
I'm just telling you the way it works. I don't need to. I don't need you to lose money to learn that.
Okay, you're not backing this. I can tell. You've got some buyer's remorse here on that statement.
At any rate, you're right. I said Sierra Kerr was the most marketable surfer in the world. I didn't say she was the best surfer. And you started by saying Kai Lenny surfs better than Carissa.
All right. Well,
okay. I'm sorry, then Sierra.
Well, I mean, I guess you would, it stands to reason that, the best surfer in the world in the eyes of the marketplace would be more marketable.
It stands to reason, but that's not generally how the surf industry spends their money.
Well, this isn't even the surf industry. This is the friggin' watch industry, the jewelry industry.
Well, you're just mentioning one sponsor. I mean, Sierra Kerr's sponsors are all surf industry, and all of Kai's other sponsors are too. He's got Hurley and Red Bull.
Yeah.
Exactly. But what's interesting,
by the way, I'm not throwing shade on Sierra Kerr. Yeah, God forbid.
You're like, that little girl, Kyle Whooper.
That is so not true. I'm just making a statement that is against your statement. I believe that Kai Lenny is much more marketable at this stage.
So that's what's interesting about this is if you're going to spend your money right now, you would spend it on Kai. The surf industry and other kind of like skate does it too, starts investing in kids young to lock them down, which is probably a terrible idea. I think they've wasted more money on youth marketing or sponsorships than they have ever seen a return on that investment. Like even John, who pays out, he doesn't stay with O'Neill. He was with O'Neill while they were paying his mom's rent, while they were really funding all of his becoming something. And then at the moment he does, Hurley swoops him up, Yeah. It's kind of a bad investment for O'Neill.
Well, it might've been. I mean,
Well, John's the only one who actually paid out. Like the vast majority of them don't.
Yeah, exactly. Now, John paid out.
How many 20-year-olds right now in your neighborhood or in your area were sponsored heavily at 13 and now they're working as waiters, I can name 5.
Probably quite a few. We don't have a honey hole here. So what's that place called at Brett? Sugar Shack. We don't have a Sugar Shack. That's like a retirement home.
The honey hole is a different establishment that you frequent, Scott.
That is so wrong.
I got feed. So how do you feel about the election, by the way, aside from our surfing, your surfing platform?
I feel fine. I feel like America voted. Both sides voted for whoever they felt like was the right choice. And I'm good with however the vote came out. I'm good with it. It seems like democracy won, as it always does, regardless of who wins the election. The people voted and their voice was heard. And this is what our constitutional democratic republic is all about.
A lot of people would say that democracy did not win and that an election was stolen.
Well, there's a lot of idiots, more idiots in the United States of America than probably anywhere in the world. I mean, but I swear, if I've learned anything, which isn't much, it's that the baseline of educated people, it's just, again, like when I just listen to Australians or Kiwis or East Indians or like people from the UK, they just seem like they're better educated. I mean, just listen to me talk. I can barely spit out a sentence.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It's kind of disheartening, to be honest, the older I get and the more cynical I become. I was listening to This American Life, which is a podcast.
Yes.
And this week's episode, they were kind of tracking election day. they sent a bunch of reporters out into the field and they followed various people throughout the day. And one of the people was the head of a militia group in Michigan.
Oh no.
I was tripping at these people's view on things and how diluted it was.
I
And
know.
they turned out to be really nice guys and didn't actually create any havoc or anything, but they literally went to polling stations with AR-15s to watch and make sure that there was nothing nefarious happening. And the reporter was with them for a week or two in advance. So they were talking about all of the planning, and they're like, hey, our president said that we need to go to polling places and protect democracy. So we're taking the initiative. It's not putting that kind of authority with police officers,
Yeah.
or the National Guard or anything like that. He just said that as a blanket statement to everybody. So these guys took it upon themselves, fully armed, fully camouflaged out, and then show up at a polling place where people are just standing in line, minding their own business, like totally doing their civic duty. And those guys walk out and stand there with AR-15s. They didn't accost anybody. They talked to a few people, but it was always really friendly, but they just stood there with AR-15s. And I'm thinking to myself, you guys are doing exactly what you're trying to prevent from being done, which is intimidation, and swaying people's right to vote in one way or the other. My mind was blown. And the reporter asked him, he's like, or I think it was a female reporter in that case. She goes, because she followed up after the election, and she goes, look, what are your thoughts on this? And he goes, oh, well, clearly the election was stolen. She goes, well, what did you see on the day that you went? He goes, well, I saw nothing nefarious. She goes, okay, well, what are the basis of the president's claims that the election was stolen? He goes, and he had no answer, of course, because there wasn't any claim. And she goes, okay, well, what if it come to find out that the president was incorrect and that the election wasn't stolen and this was completely like an accurate tally of the American voters? And he goes, I won't believe it. There is corruption. I can't figure out where it is. I will not take that as an answer. And I just thought to myself, well, that's about the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. You're getting repeated resistance to your commitment to an idea. You're getting repeated new facts, and you can't incorporate the new facts into your way of thinking. That is the definition of ignorance. Yeah.
Well, what's even
mind-blowing.
Do you know the other thing that's kind of funny about that is so these guys are going to a polling station, like let's say a library that was built out of red brick, and they're wearing camouflage. Why do you wear if you're going to wear camouflage, wear a red brick colored jacket? Like if you're going to try to kind of disappear into the background,
that's hilarious.
Don't wear camouflage to the library. Bring some books.
That is so funny. Yeah.
By the way, what book are you reading right now?
I haven't really committed to it. I've been slowly going through it for the course of a month or so, but it's Jay McInerney's Bright Lights, Big City.
Oh, is that a novel or nonfiction?
Yeah, it's a novel.
Cool. Sounds interesting.
Why? What are you reading?
I'm reading 2 books, New Seeds of Contemplation by Thomas Merton, and still reading Sapiens. I did listen to that podcast. It was fascinating.
I mean, it was literally a day after you mentioned Sapiens on air. Tim Ferriss was interviewing the author, Yuval Noah Harari, I think is his name.
Yeah.
So
really, really, really great. I love I like hearing the voice of the guy who wrote the piece. For whatever reason, it helps to sort of personalize it.
Which English, I think, might be a second language too.
It's interesting. I know you listened to it, so you know this, but I'll just tell the listeners that book is basically an amalgamation of his notes from his 101 class, like his intro class to World Civ.
Yeah.
In Israel.
Yeah.
And his students kind of helped him, like they kind of helped to edit it. And anyway, that's what I'm reading. I bring that up because I really think it's important that we stress reading more. I think it's the one thing that when we talk about the education in the United States, not enough people read books. and there's no better way to be educated than by reading books. So when I approach somebody and we discuss perhaps in in a meaningful way, we discuss what's happening on the political arena, in the political arena, I generally ask them, what book are you reading? And then I get a gauge on if, you know, their intelligence, quite frankly. I think, and I know that's a lame way to sort of gauge intelligence, but most smart people read books, and they do it throughout their lifetime. And it's because it's a joy. This isn't some, like, you know, dreaded thing that we're putting on you. It's like, it's fascinating, these things called books.
It's who is Scott Galloway interviewing, who signed off with talking about that, and what he said.
Neil Ferguson.
Yeah, and what he
Scottish guy. That was such a good podcast. I loved that one.
What he said was, all of the important truths of the world have been figured out, and not all of them, but like a number of important truths in the world have been figured out, and they have been not only distilled but then reanimated through books and metaphorically, you know, explored and all this sort of stuff. And so there's no quicker way to get to that. And look, books have been around long enough that we have a ranking of kind of which are the important ones to read. You know, you don't have to start at the bottom and figure out which are the best. So I think fewer people read now, to your point. I think there's more in the current generation of youth. They read less than my grandparents' generation did. And my parents read more than my generation did, you know?
Absolutely.
And so I think you're right. That would be a quick path back to success. If you're a young person and you want to succeed in the workplace, in relationships, in life in general, that would be a really comprehensive way to do it.
I went so far as to offer my son money. I'm like, dude, I'll give you $50 for every book you read. And it's not that he doesn't want to read books. It's just that it's not just him, it's all of us, myself included. We get caught up in our screens, you know, and it's just not right.
It's a distraction. I agree. It's all based on the screen. That is the distraction. Tangentially related to our political conversation, would you like to revisit the Mount Rushmore of surf concept?
I would, but first I got to tell everybody that the Surfers Are the Worst t-shirts are available. You can buy them right now. My friend Mark Kappa, he owns Stay Covered board bags, leashes, surf accessories, wax, candles, everything. Go to staycovered.com. Staycovered.com. He's selling them through his store, his online store. So staycovered.com, you can buy the Surfers Are the Worst t-shirts. Go there now. Pick up a leash while you're at it, perhaps a board bag or whatever. But again, Surfers Are the Worst t-shirts are in, David.
Are they the same design that you had at the boardroom show?
Same exact design, different color. They're like a flat gray instead of a navy blue.
Got it. Sweet. All right, Mount Rushmore of surfing. You presented this topic kind of on the fly last week.
Yes.
And I got some feedback from people.
All right.
Hunters.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Set up this thing, right? Four heads, the Hall of Fame of the Hall of Fame of surfing, the Mount Rushmore. We need four iconic figures that we will look to as sort of our guardians of the culture.
And we were struggling last week because it's hard to figure out four.
Exactly.
We could figure out the important people, but narrowing it down to four feels like you're automatically going to eliminate somebody who deserves a spot.
Well, I think we have to eliminate the concept of they've just got it. If it can't just be hot surfing, I think it has to be more than just hot surfing.
Agreed. Okay. So Hunter said, I try to figure out four individuals who kind of give us everything. Founding fathers and gap bridgers. Duke Kahanamoku. Duke is our figurehead, an ambassador to the world, a waterman in the truest sense, a brilliant athlete, and most importantly, a noble and direct link between the ancient sport of island royalty to modern surfing. Yada, yada. We can all hang our hats on Duke.
Okay, hold on. I agree with that. And just let me add to that. Perhaps the most important thing is that he's the ambassador of aloha, which is love, right? Which is aloha. The ha part is actually the breath of life that you're presenting to your neighbor in a spirit of camaraderie and goodwill. So the ambassador of aloha, I mean, so that sets up everything else in surfing, right? Like bring love to the equation.
You're not allowed to do the ha in the time of coronavirus.
I know. That's so true.
Just go alo.
I think there's a hand
ha.
gesture. There's some sort of hand gesture that you can.
Would you like to show us your hula talents as well?
You just saw him, baby. That was it.
All right. Bruce Brown, the guy who the guy who shared it with the world. Also, if we sort of want to have Hobie or Phil Edwards up there, Bruce kind of shared that same era and style, and he shared them through his films.
That's a pretty good one that I hadn't thought of. I'm having a hard time not agreeing with that.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that one either. And I mean, the more I think about it, we kind of need different genres up there. And so having somebody that represents film is probably a wise decision. And if you were, Bruce Brown would be the guy.
See, I don't think that we can. I think if you only represent one thing, that you in fact shouldn't be up there. Like, I think you need to have such a wide, a wide net of influence that it can't just be, oh, we got to have a film guy,
Can I offer an alternative to John Severson off my own list? I'm sorry, to Bruce Brown off my own list.
John Severson?
It's John Severson. Because so film is just one part of media. Severson covered a lot of media through what he did, and he's a great surfer and all that sort of stuff. So he might replace Bruce Brown.
I think so. I think I'm going to lean that way.
Okay. So we got Duke and we got Severson so far then. All right, number 3 from Hunter said Dale Velzy, our scallywag, big brother, uncle, dad, hero, the best example and archetype of the lovable surf bum scamp, a better, less inflammatory example than, say, Mickey Dora. Plenty of influence and contributions besides his style. With his shaping proteges and his fins shapes, Dale is who I think of, who I think we all kind of want to be in many ways. The sandy, salt-crusted, handsome, cool guy who's building his life on his terms and around riding waves. Cheesy, yes. True, also yes.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I'm having a hard time. I would suggest, as soon as you said Dale, I was like, okay, well, who's Dale's hero? And Dale's hero is probably Bob Simmons. I know that he took a lot of influence from Simmons. And the reason that Simmons isn't as widely known in the culture is simply a matter of timing, right? He wasn't around during, when we had a lot of like the boom in surfing that Dale got to kind of capitalize on. But I agree. I think Dale Velzy is a good one. I can't argue with Dale Velzy at all.
I'm wondering if Dale Velzy's legacy is quite as long for like our youth. They might know the name Velzy, certainly because of V-Land, but I don't know that they know who he really was.
Well, I agree with that. And for some reason, I feel like that might not be the one. I don't know. Maybe the guy who sent the email, Hunter, he made a really good case for Dale. And I agree with all of it. So there's kind of a question mark around Dale for me, but only because I keep going back to Bob Simmons. I'm like, Bob Simmons did some pretty crazy stuff, sandwich construction boards. Yeah. But he doesn't have a deep and rich. I mean, he died young. I think he was like 32 or something when he died. 35.
I didn't realize that. Yeah. Bob Simmons has a design legacy, but I think to Hunter's point, Velzy embodies a character and an archetype.
Yeah,
more than
that's
just
true.
A designer.
And Velzy is sort of he's known as the first guy to open a surf shop, like to have a surf shop, and even though it was maybe underneath a pier for 1 year, which even makes it greater. The first surf shop was underneath the Manhattan Pier or whatever, Hermosa Pier or whichever pier it was there in the South Bay. But I like that one.
You might have heard this story before. Rich Harbor told this to me, that when they were kind of coming up at the same time, and Rich's business, 20 miles south of Dale's was in Seal Beach, and Rich was getting very, very busy, and he needed somebody to help him shape surfboards. And obviously at that time, there weren't any surfboard shapers. There was very few. So he calls Dale and he's like, hey man, I need some help. I got to get 30 boards done this week or something like that. So Dale comes down, he goes, yeah, no problem. So he takes a bunch of blanks, goes back home, comes back, delivers them, and they're awesome. They're shaped not only really well, but to Rich's specifications. And Rich is like, this is amazing. I have 50 orders this week. I need even more help. Can you help with that? He goes, yeah. Takes all the blanks, goes back home. And Rich kind of stops watching the quality control so much. And after a couple of weeks, he starts looking at the boards and he's like, oh my God, these things are terrible. They're misshapen. They're asymmetrical. They are just hacked.
Yeah.
So he drives up to go talk to Dale. Dale has a shaping school set up. So Dale, part of his business, in addition to building boards and his surf shop, was he opened a shaping school, and he was taking Rich's orders that Rich was paying Dale for. And then he was taking money from a student who was paying like $20 per board to learn how to shape or whatever, or probably less than that. So he was getting paid on both ends and then just taking back the amateurs, probably the very first board that this student had ever shaped, and taking it back to Rich and collecting payment from Rich.
Okay, Dale is now on the Mount Rushmore. That's the greatest story ever. That's such a Dale Velzy. I mean, there's a million stories like that about Dale Velzy. So I love that story, and I love what's behind it, which is this sort of, like you said, scallywag.
Yeah,
kind of a pirate and
I wasn't around obviously for Velzy, so I'm sure.
Oh my God, I've got a funny story for Dale Velzy. So we're at Surfer Magazine, and I'm at work. I'm in my office, and my office was situated so I was right next to the lobby. Like you walked through the lobby to my office door, and I have a big, large pane window, and I can see everyone coming in. So I see people parking. My whole time I'm seeing who's coming and going, and I see Dale Velzy pull up, and he brings out this like hideous shortboard, like this thing that's got no nose, the widest tail ever, and it's got like some crazy fin configuration. And he walks through and he's like, hi, he greets Ruth, the receptionist. He's like, hi, I'd like to speak to Evan. And he's talking about Evan Slater, right? And Ruth's like, Evan Slater, Dale Velzy's here. And I know Evan's just rolling his eyes going, oh no, man, I gotta go deal with this. Evan's busy. He's in there trying to figure out how to. And so Evan walks out, and I get to hear the conversation that goes down, and Dale's like, look what I've made this great new shortboard. This is going to be the hottest thing ever. He's the full salesman, just wheeling and dealing, And Evan, bless his heart, out of respect for Dale Velzy, he's like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, you know what? How's it go? And Dale's like, well, I put this bevel here. He's got bevels and friggin' crazy. It's just, it looks like something somebody from his surf school would have perhaps shaped.
Yeah, totally.
And anyway, it's just, and eventually Evan's got to go, okay, you know what? Like Dale's like, look, I'd like you to give it a try and maybe write something about it for the magazine, And poor Evan's like, okay, you know what? Well, sure, leave it here and I'll wax it up and try it, And of course Dale leaves, and Evan's just like, oh my God, I got to deal with this board. And by the way, that's the nature of surfing magazines in general back in the day. People would just walk in, demand to see Evan or Steve Hawk or whoever it was, and get past the gatekeeper. A lot of times they would just plow right through the gatekeeper because they didn't even understand that Ruth was a gatekeeper. They just would walk through and just interrupt the daily business that was going on, and I'm telling you, like, crazy stuff went down where it's like, oh no, somebody's here and they're pissed. Like we've had to get restraining orders against people. It was crazy. But anyway, that's my Dale Velzy story.
I wonder if Dale ever even followed up with that board. Dale seems like the kind of guy who would drop that off and then bail and kind of like get distracted by a million other things and never even come back.
Yeah, I kind of don't know the end of that whole thing, but I remember looking at the board and I remember Evan going, oh my God, this thing's the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen in my life. And it was. Yeah. It was just nonsensical.
Right. And Dale probably never rode a shortboard in his life. So.
No.
Exactly. So again, I wasn't around for Velzy, and I'm sure that he has people who are very disgruntled about business dealings with him or whatever, but he strikes me as the kind of guy that kind of gets away with it. You know, like
Yeah.
you I don't know, on Seinfeld, Kramer could say the most wacky things and everybody laughs. But if Jerry were to say it, people get offended, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of
He's
that.
well, there's a great book, right, that Spencer Crowell put out, and I think it's called Velzy as Hawk, where
Yep.
Hawk was his nickname. And that book goes into great detail about who the character of Dale Velzy is. And I think it's a great read. I think people should get this book. It's kind of a coffee table book,
Yeah.
but it'll give you great insight into Dale Velzy. And it's definitely one that people should have. It's a fun thing to have. You know, it's a fun book to have.
So what's funny is he was the one on Mount Rushmore that you and I kind of put on the side, and yet we've spent more time talking about him.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think he's right up there. So we got Severson, Velzy. We only have one more spot. Oh my God, this is going to be hard.
Do you want to try to guess who Hunter would have said?
Well, I mean, I don't know who Hunter would have said, but I know who I would put there, but go ahead. I'm going to say Jerry.
Okay. Hunter said George Greeno.
Oh.
Our unassuming mastermind Jedi guru figure. If we want that, quote, first modern surfer to be Nat or McTavish, those guys kind of owe it to Greeno.
That's a great pick.
As you all know, his board, fin designs, mind-blowing turns on his knees, etc., are arguably the reason the Australians and everyone else started surfing vertically and started the shortboard revolution. I feel like with Greeno on the mountain, we also get Nat, Bob, Skip Fry's Eggs onto Curran, Slater, and Florence.
Yeah, that's a great pick. The one problem I have with our Mount Rushmore, I don't really have a problem with it. It's a great, allotment. There's no Australians. And I think our Australian friends would be a little bit bummed. Is there an Australian that takes the spot of one of these guys? And oh, by the way, George is more or less Australian, even though he's not. But they kind of own him as their own. And so maybe George fits that bill.
I think, look, the surf world in Australia was
culturally it was behind us.
And it was substantial, but it was kind of isolated. And so all of kind of the international influence, I think, started kind of with Surfer Magazine, right?
Well, I would suggest that. Yeah, perhaps. I'm sure that Trax started up in, I don't know, I want to say probably 65 or something like that. I don't even know. I should know.
Surfing World is the oldest magazine now.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. Continuously running.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, which was the first one,
I think they were, okay. They're 60 years old now.
Okay, so we have Duke, Velzy,
Greeno,
Severson.
Yep.
And Greeno. Those are pretty solid. I'd like to hear some of the listeners try to discount those four. If anything, look, it's easy to fill other options in here, but if you're going to discount one of these four, who are you going to put in their place? And I don't know. That's a really solid grouping. Hunter gave some good thought to this.
I've got a answer to your non-Australians or non-diverse concern about Mount Rushmore. Is if we're using Mount Rushmore as the example, it's all white dudes. It's all middle to older age, rich white dudes.
That's true.
And I don't know, Duke would probably roll over in his grave if I was calling him an American as opposed to Hawaiian. So he's the one outlier there, but still.
He's definitely Hawaiian. And obviously, the color of his skin is darker than ours.
It is.
I mean, and Duke to me is the one where you just automatically go, boom. Like that's the one that's a no-brainer.
That's the no-brainer.
But these other ones are no-brainers. I mean, especially when Hunter explained it. I can't really, those are really, really, really good ones. And you know what else is cool about them? Well, except for Velzy, the other ones were pretty, had a sense of humility about them. And, the other ones might go, nah, I probably shouldn't be on it. Whereas Velzy would be like, not only am I going to be on it, I'm going to sell space on my portion.
He'll have like sponsors plastered across his forehead.
Yeah.
He'll be selling merch out in the parking lot.
I think what he would sell is like he'll give you the ability to chisel his face for a certain fee.
Right. All right. Well, how's the hair looking, by the way? Kind of flattened out a little
Oh,
bit.
well, wait a minute. You've touched it with your hands, which means you flattened it.
Yeah, I didn't introduce a brush into this though. It's just
Your hands are kind of like brushes.
kind of.
There goes the little brush move. I just saw it.
It looks.
Now,
It's settled down though. To my point, it's settled down.
It did settle down a little bit.
Gravity does its job. All right. Well, what's next? What do you got?
Still a hodgepodge. Let's see. What do I have? Oh,
I've got more if you don't.
I've got some stuff here. I found this kind of interesting. I found this, bear with me here. A man was arrested and charged with arson in the fire that destroyed Derek Hines' house last week. Well, the fire was last year, but this man was arrested last week. Officers in the Byron Bay Police Station went to the home of a guy in Molumbimbi, where they arrested a 25-year-old man. The man was charged following a year-long investigation into the fire that destroyed Derek Hines' house. Last September of 19, fire brigades were called to Hines' house that he shared with his son, Lakeland, maybe. The fire razed the house. Though Hines and his son were spared, a dog perished in the blaze. Also lost were Derek Hines' lifelong collection of writing, memorabilia, and surf craft, which, considering his role in the surf world, constitutes an enormous loss. Derek, he took to Facebook to vent his feelings after the arrest. And this is Derek Hines' words. Just heard on the ABC News statewide around Australia that the, quote, piece of work, end quote, who destroyed my house by fire, almost killed my son, killed a loyal pet, then acted as if it was none of his doing for a year, has been arrested. Thank you to the boys at the Byron Cop Shop and those in Sydney for follow-up work and taking due methodical time to get the crime sorted to this stage. Some arsonists get done after a day, others after a year. And why did it happen, question mark? An incredible trivial issue. Life, huh? From little things, big things grow, negative as well as positive, end quote. So that was Derek Hines writing. And by the way, this entire piece I got from Stu Nettle, my friend over at the SwellNet website, SwellNet Dispatch. So I was reading directly from Stu's article. Thoughts?
Crazy.
Dave?
I mean, obviously I love Derek Hines, and that is, and that fire was so tragic, but I had no idea that there was any nefarious activity involved at all. I just thought it was like some random electrical fire or whatever. So I'm kind of shocked to hear that. Is there any indicator as to why the kids started it?
Well, the one indicator from some of the commentary is these last two sentences by Derek Hines himself, when he says it was an incredibly trivial issue that caused the angst and resentment.
Crazy.
So, and of course, Derek, you know, he's opinionated in a good way, in my opinion. You know, he's a, you know, look, he, you know,
he's ruffled feathers, but
yeah, but I mean, he always does it in a creative way, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, and he usually has some genuine, you know, backing and intelligence behind it. I don't know why this guy set Derek Hines' house on fire, but
well, it's a 25-year-old kid. And I remember somebody saying years ago, but it rung is very true to me, is that if you just locked up all males between the age of 18 and 25, crime would go down to, you know, 1% essentially. Yeah. Like it is 18 to 25-year-old males whose frontal lobe in their brain isn't fully developed, who don't understand consequence, who just want to go out and get in scrapes when they go out. And I
would argue alcohol too. If you could eliminate alcohol from that equation, I mean, alcohol in 25 and under males is like 99% of crime.
For sure. God, I'm trying to think what we were doing the other day. I think we're at the dog beach or something. And we saw some kids young teenagers, just like um, they were doing something to a sign. They were defacing a sign. And we're like, God, what? Like, that's destructive. Why would you do that? And our brains couldn't wrap around why you would just do something for the sake of being destructive. And then I had to fess up, like, oh my God, when I was in high school, we would just break a window for the heck of it, for no reason whatsoever, because we wanted to hear the sound of glass breaking. Like, and somebody, you know, had to deal with that later and the expense of it. And so, yeah, I could see this is a 25-year-old. And yes, Derek's probably right that it was very trivial. But when you're 25, you're a dumbass and you just do stupid things. And the fact that a dog, I mean, thankfully, Derek and his son got out alive, but they lost a dog. Like,
I
that's
know.
insane.
I know
That's an
that
innocent bystander.
that touches you and I and all dog owners. Here's a loyal pet.
Yeah,
That's sad.
totally.
And all of the stuff that, as Stu wrote, you know, all of that stuff, the memorabilia, the writings, the surf craft. But I guess, you know, I mean, in sort of a Buddhist way, you know, are these things, you know, are they creating happiness? We don't know. I'm sure they have a lot of meaning to Derek.
So I talked to a couple of months ago, Mark McInnes. He's a surf photographer based out of Oregon, and he lost his house in those Oregon fires that were happening just a couple of months ago. And so we had all these conversations about that Buddhist outlook, you know. I mean, after the initial devastation and sadness and all of that, is there any silver lining of a recognition that, oh my God, I had anxiety from managing all of these things. And I can now have the next 20 or 30 years of my life with this perspective that I actually don't need everything I thought that I needed for so long.
Yeah, you know, I was reading that book Sapiens the other night, and I was in a section of it about world religions, and he was talking about Buddhism, and basically, you know, this idea that if you can just sit in your suffering, and just acknowledge it and not try to get out of it. This idea that we crave to constantly get out of situations instead of just sitting in it, right? It was fascinating to me, you know, that's what true enlightenment is the ability to kind of sit in your suffering and not be like, oh my God, how do I get out of this? Which is, you've just created a desire to, you know, to have something that you're not going to get, you know?
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, ultimately, the Buddhist way of looking at it acknowledges you're never going to be able to avoid all suffering. If we are trying to avoid it at every cost, and then you feel it and you try to get away from it and all that, it's almost a futile effort.
Like right now, like the sun's about to shine in my eyes, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a little bit, I don't even acknowledge it, but there's some anxiety that I need to get that out of my eyes. I need to go do something for that. And there's constantly these, it's like constantly I'm just like dodging situations that are conjuring up in my head about how it's going to make me feel better, instead of just going, yeah, the sun's in my eyes, you know?
Feel the warmth, embrace the vitamin D.
Yeah, be in the now.
Exactly. Well, did you see that Stab in the Dark?
Hold on, let me change the sun's in my eyes.
Yeah, speaking of sun, Stab in the Dark.
I didn't see any of this.
Oh my gosh, they dropped a new trailer, and guess who the surfer is?
Okay, it's Stab in the Dark, so it's the high performance one, right?
Yep.
The surfer is Kai Lenny.
Taj Burrow.
Really?
Yep, really. It's funny that you react.
What's your thoughts on that?
My thought is I'm thrilled to see Taj again. Like, I forgot about Taj. When I saw it, I thought, oh, this might be the best one ever. And there's a couple of clips of him surfing. He's still surfing amazing.
Of course.
Yeah, I think, and he's funny, you know, like, I think this could be a really good edition of it.
Good. I hope it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who would you have picked?
Kelly would be the ultimate.
Yeah. Kelly would be good.
Kelly knows more about board design, and he has the ability to articulate it better than anybody.
I agree. Do you think that'll happen? It'll
So
probably happen when Kelly's not on his, like, it'll happen when he's like 53 or something like that.
uh,
He's like my age. They'll be
so
like, we finally got Kelly to do Stab in the Dark.
um, interestingly, I told you I was going to talk to Blake from Panda.
Yeah.
I did talk to him, and he actually submitted a board for that Stab in the Dark. And he goes, they gave Blake the surfer's height, weight, and I think maybe even stance.
Yeah.
And based on that information, it was a diminutive person. And so Blake thought, oh, it's Kelly. And Blake talked to a couple of the other shapers, and they all thought, oh, it's Kelly. So he built a board for who he thought was Kelly. And they might have even said that he's going to be surfing like smaller waves on it. So that's what Blake built. And then come to find out, it's not. It's for Taj, and he's going to be surfing in West Oz. So he thinks, and some of the other shapers involved think, that the initial surfer actually backed out, and they had to pick a secondary surfer. And even in the trailer, when Taj is picking up the boards, he goes, "Oh man, these boards are all so small."
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So based on that theory, and let's say it's not Kelly, because I don't think Kelly would do it. Who do you think it would have been? Let's take Kelly out of the equation.
Who's Kelly sized? Felipe, maybe?
That's where I'm going. Like Felipe. There's actually a lot of surfers that are what, 5'9", $145.
Yeah. Who? Adriano?
No, he's like $180.
And he's not, and he's 5'4", probably.
I mean, now that he's retired, he's $180. No, I'm just kidding. Adrian, I'm just kidding. Just having fun, bro.
I mean, maybe Josh Kerr.
Josh?
Could have been Josh.
Josh
now
is
that I
that
think about
size. There's a lot. You'd be surprised. Most these pros are small.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But who's at that
I tell
level?
you, Taj is a surprise to me. And in a way, as I sit and think about it, he's a pleasant surprise. At first, I was like, really? He's way off the radar, which is why I like it. To me, he's off the radar, which is why I like it.
I think the bigger
and
issue.
He's smart. He's a smart guy. I think he'll do a good job, I hope, of conveying, his thoughts and feelings regarding these boards.
We'll see. I think it's the bigger issue is having the shapers build the boards for a smaller surfer in smaller waves, and then having Taj go ride them in West Oz. That's a totally different board.
That's fine. Whatever.
Yeah,
like, dude, the guy's a professional surfer. Give him some boards. Let's see how they go. That's kind of nitpicking, I think.
I don't. The whole point of this thing is to nitpick.
Well,
you're giving him 10 boards and you're telling him to nitpick the differences.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, you're just assuming that he's going to be surfing 8-foot North Point or something. Like
he did.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well, then let's find out which board was best. Damn it.
Yeah.
I mean, what better place to get a good feel for a board?
Exactly.
Even if it's 2 inches too small. If they're all too small, they're all too small.
Yeah.
Look, they're all too small, but of all the boards that were too small, this one was the best of all the boards that were too small.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it nevertheless, because
I am too.
I like that franchise, and I like Taj, and we don't get to see enough Taj. So
it's funny. I was talking to a guy who works in the industry, and we're talking about editorial and content, and we were talking about how, like, it's expensive to create content, and he goes, well, God, how does Stab do it? And this guy's in the editorial space, so to speak. He's like, how do you think Stab does it? I'm like, you know what? Like, it's not that expensive to be, like, if you're Sam, the guy who owns Stab, you call up like Ashton and you're like, dude, we're not gonna be able to pay you very much, but there's a major ego play here. You get to hang out with all the best surfers in the world. You get to create super cool stuff. We're going to give you a lot of rope. You can go crazy. We're just not going to pay you that much, but we're going to send you around the world. And that's kind of how they pencil it out on a spreadsheet. Like, I don't think they get, these guys that create this stuff, there's not a lot of money to the edit guy. It's just, there's a lot of upside travel and interaction and connections and networking that you get to do that you'll have forever.
Yeah. Stab
Anyway.
specifically runs a pretty lean crew.
Oh yeah.
There's like 5 guys basically on staff.
Yeah.
So, and look, I think they have most of Vans's surf budget, right? And Monster, they have a big deal with Monster. They're always doing Monster stuff. So a couple of those big marketing spends will get you through the year.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to get rich doing it, but
yeah.
Any updates from the WSL, Scott?
Yes.
We're looking at the
Holy
Pipe Masters
shit.
supposed to start this month.
It's funny that you say that. I do have that written down here. Let me find these dates. I think November 13th is when the Triple Crown starts. So that's in a week from today, right? Or less. Like
It's 3 days from now.
Thank you. 3
Today's
days
November
from now.
10th.
The days are getting shorter. The weeks are getting longer. Vans Triple Crown, I have November 13th. So is that going to start? I doubt it very greatly. Is that a phrase? Is that a sentence?
It is. I would just like to have an update. Have you heard a word from the WSL?
I went to their website. It just says that it's tentative. And look, it's not going to happen.
It's definitely not going to happen.
I mean, the coronavirus, it's on the rise. Like, we've had more cases than we've ever had since it started. November 25th is another tentative date for the women's Roxy Honolulu Bay Maui Pro. November 25th. That's the next event that I saw. Like, it said November 13th, Vans Triple Crown, but I didn't see, and I might have bypassed it on accident, but I didn't see like Haleiwa Pro starts or anything like that. Like, doesn't the Haleiwa Pro start on November 13th if the Vans Triple Crown starts on November 13th?
Yep.
The answer is yes. Now, the big one is, will the Pipe Masters happen? December 8th. Will the Billabong Pipe Masters happen? December 8th. And I don't know. Are surfers allowed to travel? They are allowed to travel to Hawaii, but it's so fluid. I mean, that could change with the way the pandemic's blowing up right now.
It absolutely could change. And it's not just a one-off event. I mean, that is the kickoff. Let's remind everybody, the new tour schedule is where it ended last year is where it starts this year. So that Maui event is the first event for the women's, and the Pipe Masters is going to be the first event for the men's. So if we don't kick off the first event, then we have another completely abbreviated season for 2021, which is all but likely as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. My dog's here, Maverick. I'm trying to get him out of my way here, but
I don't understand why we don't have updates.
Yeah, that's problematic, right? I think the last thing Dave Prodan had Pat O'Connell on his podcast, and there wasn't much there except, optimism from them, which makes sense. They're just trying to, get everybody to hang tight and don't worry, we're working. They are working their asses off. By the way, the Taylor Knox podcast is going to be coming everyone's way here soon. I got to send it over to you, but he was speaking about how incredibly difficult it must be for Pat O'Connell to be in the spot that he's in right now. Probably the worst job in the surf industry right now is to be the commissioner of the WSL, and I know Pat's working hard because he's a good guy. But it's
what work is there to be?
No win.
Let's be honest. What work is there to be? I agree with everything that you're saying.
I don't know if working hard, but maybe he's dealing with the anxiety of you and me going, what's going on, bro? You guys are lame, blah, blah, blah. It's like,
I'm not diminishing those Pat or anybody else's at the WSL's workload. I know they are working hard. My point is that how much work can you do when all of the pieces are moving and you don't know? Yeah, if you had a date, December 8th, and you knew that you were going to run, then you work towards that. But if you don't want to do so much work and invest in hiring and buying all this stuff and then have the event not go. So it's like watching what?
You'd be a better antagonist than moderator. I'll just leave it right there.
Okay. That works. But with the election, for 3 or 4 days, we're watching the news. There's nothing to report on. You know what I mean? Like they were on air 24 hours a day for 4 days straight, like moving, like going to the screen and like cutting.
We need We need
as
one of
many-
those guys. We need like
Yeah.
a Steve Karnacki guy for the WSL, just like going up to the calendar and going, okay, so if this happens here, then we're going to go from November 13th to November 25th. And we need one of those guys.
Totally. That's what they did. And it was mind blowing because it actually engaged me for a lot of it. And then I realized, oh my gosh, there's no story developing. It's the slowest developing story of all time. And that's kind of what the WSL is faced with. There's really nothing to report on. But
Well, here's something to report on.
yeah.
Nazare was closed due to
Right.
the pandemic because of the Double XL event. Is that what they call that thing? Yeah, the Double XL.
They did not do an event. It was just a free surf.
Right. So let me just read this real quick, if you don't mind. This could be a good time for WSL news. Following large crowds descending upon the cliff at Nazare, who came to watch the premier XXL hellscape of Nazare during last week's historic swell, health officials in Portugal have issued a free surfing and tow surfing ban at the spot, citing COVID-19 health concerns. David, your thoughts?
I don't understand why they don't just prevent people from standing on the cliff. Why do they have to ban the surfing?
I think that's what the surfers are saying too. In fact, I know that's what the surfers are saying. They're like, look, just get a gatekeeper at the friggin', there's like one road in and one road out, you know?
Exactly.
Like, it's Europe. Like, it's not like, you know,
It's
Orange,
so dumb.
Orange County where there's a bunch of drive arounds.
It's so dumb. And the idea that you either have to put the gate down at the harbor, you still have a gate either way. So you either put it at the harbor or you put it up on the cliff. Just put it up on the cliff, prevent the surfers from, or the spectators from going.
Yeah.
I watched all that footage. I think that had happened. That big swell happened a day before we recorded last time, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I watched a bunch of the footage that came out after the fact, Nick Von Rupp's YouTube vlog.
No, we spoke about this last week. We spoke about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The imagery of the people on the cliff is crazy. I mean, it is packed. There was more people at that event than I've ever seen at Nazare before.
Yeah.
Not just at the lighthouse, but like going back for,
long ways. Yeah.
Acres and acres.
Yeah. It was definitely a super spreader event, you know?
Yep.
Everybody's having them.
Yep. All the rage. By the way, we got word last night, Neat Essentials, Primaloft jacket. The jacket that you and I wear all the time. I honestly have had mine for 3 years. I think for the last 2 Christmases, I've gifted 5 of them to people each Christmas. It's on sale right now. Rob from Neat Essentials there's Neat Essentials Australia, there's Neat Essentials America. So Rob runs the American division. He's actually moving warehouses right now, and he has extra inventory of the Primaloft jacket. So listeners, if you've been eyeing that jacket and you want to grab it, it's 30% off on neatessentials.com. The promo code is SPIT.
Okay, that's epic. So I was just up at Lemoore in Fresno where it was butt-ass cold. And I was so stoked to have my Neat Essentials Primaloft, super warm, ridiculously warm, awesome warmth. And that's what it's all about for me, is staying warm. And I mean, it's the thing that's cool about it is all I have to do is wear a t-shirt underneath my Primaloft, and I'm so toasty.
Yeah.
And it's got a cool little hood that you can zip tie.
This is the non-hooded one.
It is
the thinner one.
Oh.
But I wear that thing all the time, and you can actually layer it with the down one that has the hood.
Oh, I've got the down one. I apologize.
Yeah. But anyways, promo code SPIT, 30% off, smoking deal. It's already less expensive. It's so lightweight too. You could pack it. You could like make it into a ball this size and throw it in your backpack when you're traveling and stuff.
Right.
So go grab that deal.
Okay.
And honestly, consider it for gifting. That's what I've done the last couple of years. It's a great gift. Everybody loves one.
By the way, we raised $206,000 at the Surf Aid Cup up at Kelly Slater's Surf Ranch.
I can't believe I forgot to ask you about that at the top of the show. What the heck, man? How was it? Did you get barreled?
I did. I got sick barrel, and of course there's footage and all of that. And I got you know what? I need to shout out. I don't know the driver's name of the ski, but I set up for the right-hand barrel. And last time when you and I surfed there, what was that, like 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah.
I didn't make it out of the right-hand barrel at the end section. I made the top section
Oh, okay.
barrel, but I didn't make it out of the, and I was kind of dumbfounded because I tried twice, and I was like, how do people make this thing? You know, like and I've realized that I'm just such a heavy back-footed surfer that I rarely push forward on my front foot. And I kid you not, when I was in the tube on this wave the other night, the ski driver was like, front foot, front foot, front foot, like screaming at me. And I actually listened to him, and I pushed down on my front foot and drove through the barrel to a glorious exit, and a claim that probably rivals some of the best Brazilian claims. And I was stoked, and it's all on footage. So I got a deep, deep drainer. I rode one of the Firewire boards that was up there. I think the Sci-Fi is the one I rode, which is the one I rode when you were there too. But anyway, it was
That's
epic.
amazing.
But the cool thing is that the people that raised money for Surf Aid, all the people that were a part of the Surf Aid Cup, they reached out to their network and brought in $206,000 so that we can continue our programs at Surf Aid USA
Crazy.
and Surf Aid International. So super stoked on everyone being involved. And I met a bunch of new people, a bunch of new friends, and it was great.
That is amazing. The idea that you can refine your surfing prowess at that pool. I mean, that's the idea with the pool, right? Is
Right.
that in the ocean, it would take you years to get that same wave again, where you fall in the barrel and you go, oh, what I should have done is X, Y, or Z. I'll do it on the next wave. In order for you to get that next wave, sometimes it's years in between. So the idea that you could go out there and actually have a coach telling you what to do while you're in the barrel is really amazing.
Well, the amazing thing is I listened to the guy.
I know, yeah.
I actually
To have
opened
the
my ears.
wherewithal.
Yeah. And I told him as soon as I kicked out, I go, dude, you made that happen. Like I was not going there with my front foot. He's like, I know everybody does that. We're all so back foot oriented, or a lot of us are. At least I definitely am.
Yeah.
You know, like when I set up for a tube at home, I'm leaning back. I'm putting my arm in the thing. I'm back here stalling for it, hoping that it actually throws over me.
Right.
And as you know, that end section at Lemoore on the right, it's almost sort of like unorganic the way it almost like hits a long sandbar, like it goes flat, and then it hits this thing and it heaves over with so much speed that you've got to be on your horse and whipping the thing to get through it. And anyway, shout out to him for, I wish I knew his name, but a lot of fun.
So where is the footage?
I got to go. I don't know. I need to hunt it down. I'm on the board of directors there, so it's not really my place to be, getting out of the water and going, let me see it. Like I haven't even seen the footage, I just know it exists because I don't want to be that guy there's other people that worked hard, raised money that deserve to see their footage before me.
That's fine, but listeners want to see it. Do it for the listeners.
I will hunt it down. I think these guys are editing all the footage.
Oh, okay.
And it might just be a still image. The still photographer showed it to me on the skis. Like, look, I nailed it. And, it's just me with my arm sticking out of the tube. It's just every wave looks the same there. So
Totally.
It might not even be me for all I know.
Find that footage.
All right. Will do.
All right. Well, do you have must-see moment, Duke Kook?
I don't.
I've got one for you.
Okay.
My must-see moment is Egg Salad by Log Wrap. Did you watch this egg video?
No.
Log Wrap put together a little edit. It's like 3.5 minute edit of Devin Howard, Cliff Capono, Tanner Gudauskas, all riding that Channel Islands mid-length. The Channel Islands, the CI mid is what I think it's actually called. And it's fantastic. I mean, it's like, dude, you will want to go buy a mid-length if you watch that video. I think they all are riding the exact same board, which is the CI version. But you watch it and you just go, dude, that suits all of my needs. Whether it's Devin surfing lowers or Cliff Capono surfing Honolulu Bay, like the board has so much hold, so much drive off the bottom, in the barrel, everywhere you go on the thing. It's all one fluid line of energy that you just have to lean into. The board looks so sick.
Yeah.
So Egg Salad by Log Wrap.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of all those guys, and mid-length. I mean, I learned on a mid-length, so I've been riding a 610 since, 78. So whatever.
What kind of board did you learn on?
That one was like kind of a no name,
Okay.
like one of those boards from the mid 70s that just some guy in his backyard made. It didn't even have a logo on it. One
Fair
of those.
enough. What do you got behind you? That's quite the
That's
artifact.
That's a vintage Nectar. It's probably, let's see, it's 5.6. It's a vintage Nectar tri-fin from the early 80s that Art Collier made. I don't know if you know Art Collier Shaper. He used to own the label Third World Exotic that Larry Mabel owns now.
Okay.
Art Collier shaped for Nectar for a long time. And that's just an old board that I found in a garage sale for
Really?
$90.
You kind of, do you feel like you got a deal on that, or did you get ripped?
Yeah. No, it's a cool little board. It's probably too small for me, but I've never ridden it. No, I've never waxed it. I had it fixed.
So that is, you said you learned on an egg. That's the style of board that I learned to ride on.
Oh, one of these. Yeah.
Yeah. It was mid 90s for me, but I wasn't riding boards from the mid 90s. I was riding boards like that my grandma or whoever would find at a garage sale. And they're awesome. I love that amount of volume. Yeah, that thing's perfect. Trying to stop talking because Scott is showing off the board so that the Zoom camera goes to Scott.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
No, it's okay. So that, even though I was surfing in the mid 90s, I was riding boards that my parents or grandma had bought at garage sales that were probably of the mid 80s. And so, yeah, short boards, thrusters, but with lots of volume, real stable for me being a skinny young teenager.
Yeah.
And I actually still love that style of board. Occasionally I'll get on one again, and they're rippable, you know, they're stable and they're rippable.
Yeah. Feels like the first time.
The flat deck on that thing too.
Super flat deck. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
awesome. Yeah. Get your Surfers Are the Worst t-shirts at staycovered.com. The holidays are coming. Buy somebody a t-shirt, get yourself one. I need to get you one, David, and pick up a couple leashes. I'm sure you have some people on your list. Get them some leashes or whatever. Staycovered.com. That's where you can get the Surfers Are the Worst t-shirts.
I
have a must-see moment too.
Okay, what's yours?
No, I'm sorry. I have a Duke Kahanamoku.
I have a Duke as well. You go.
Okay, my Duke is the president of the Maldives, who last week decreed that Thanberdehu Island has been granted protected area status. And this means that the two legendary waves of Honkies and Sultans will remain accessible to local surfers. In other words, it won't be just the wealthy that can go and ride these waves. And this has been like an 8-year struggle by people in the area to get this area protected. And just sort of surprisingly, the president, Ibrahim Mohammed Salih, decreed this protected area status. And this basically means there could still be some development on this island, but the waves itself will be accessible to locals. And that's a big deal because a lot of the waves, as I mentioned, aren't accessible to locals. And if there is development on the island, it's going to have to meet sort of a higher threshold of environmental standards.
Got it. Fascinating. I did not see that story. My Duke is John Florence. Tomorrow he is dropping a new film called Tokyo Rising, and it's on Amazon Prime.
Sweet.
I know. So this is fascinating to me. What I like about John is that just when you think that he's sleeping on the job, like he's not been in our limelight, or he hasn't been in the limelight, he's not vying for our attention on Instagram every other day.
Yeah.
So you think that he's been sleeping on the job, and then he comes out with something that not only is going to, command everybody's attention, but he does it like doing it on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
He's getting paid for it. That is a legit platform. It's sponsored by Cliff Bar. So it's not, I like that John knows his value and that he gets paid for his value, and he distributes things in such a way that command all of our attention. He doesn't follow, like, honestly, if you just had a team of managers, they would all be telling you to do what everybody else is doing. John's like, nope, here's what I'm doing. And I would presume it's going to be amazing. Everything that he puts out, from View from a Blue Moon to Space, they're always amazing. So I'm really
I bet
looking
there's
forward to
something
this.
that we're surprised about, right? That's what you mean. Like there's always, we know we're going to see great surfing footage, but there's going to be something that we learn either about what he's interested in or why he's interested in things. Like I'm hoping that there's that moment where you're like, oh, who knew that John sands his own fins or something,
Yeah.
or like whatever it is.
Well, it's called Tokyo Rising because it's about the lead up to the Olympics.
Mm.
And John was injured last year, and those Olympic spots were going to go to surfers on tour who ranked the highest. And so Kelly Slater was vying for that last spot because John was in position for it prior to getting injured. And throughout the year, he kept getting bumped down the list. Yeah. And Kelly needed to make it through a couple of heats at Pipe to get the spot. So I think it documents some of that. But now, with the Olympics being postponed due to COVID, who knows how they'll reshuffle the system. And maybe this film goes into that some. I don't know.
Will the Olympics happen this year, 2021?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Do you?
I mean, there's some pretty good news from Pfizer. I know it's kind of preliminary news, but
about the vaccine.
Yeah, but it's way too early to tell. But it certainly seems like it's nice that there's some good news about this thing.
Yeah. Well, at any rate, Tokyo Rising, find it Thursday on Amazon Prime.
Okay, fair enough. I guess that's all we got, right? Until next time.
Yep.
Adios and aloha.